Okay. Hey, how's everybody doing? This is Ashraf coming at you. I've got a great topic today, as you can see at the top, mindset. And I wanted to put out this video. Pierre asked me to put something in there on videos he wants to share with everybody. And I think a lot of the technical stuff, which Pierre has put together, some of the technology stuff he's got there is just awesome. But I wanted to give you some information on mindset, having the right mindset. And what I'm going to do is customize these things to fit your job here, being an L1 or an L2, even if you're listening to this, to help you to have the right mindset so you feel that this is something that you're going to be very good at, obviously. So here we go. I'm going to go over a couple of key things that I've thought over the 23 years of being in sales that really, helped a lot of salespeople have the right mindset for the job, because this is not an easy business. It's a business where every single day is different. You're never going to have the 2 days exactly the same. So a couple of things, if you want to take some notes down, but I'm going to have this on the screen here, as you can see. The first thing is developing SMART goals. And what is SMART goals? Okay, it's your definite major purpose. That's what DPM stands for. So let's go over SMART goals. S stands for being specific. Okay, let's say your goal is specific, and what you got to do is have goals for different categories. Like I'm going to talk more about financial goals. Okay, so for financial reasons, let's say SMART, meaning that let's say your goal is to hit $100,000 a year or $1 million a year, whatever it is. So let's make it specific. Okay, M stands for measurable. Okay, right here. M, how can you measure that goal? Can you measure it by month? Can you measure it by day? Break that goal down even by on a daily basis, because this will put more clarity in your mind, because the brain works more effectively when you have specific numbers. Okay, so let's break down your $100,000. How much is it per month? It's $8,333 roughly. How much is it per day? It's $274. I know this because I do this for so many people. Now, accuracy, okay, is it attainable? How accurate is that? In other words, if you're putting a goal down and you just got into a business and you want to make $1 million and you've never made more than, let's say, 50,000, I think that's stretching it. So attainable from 50 to $1 million is going to be very difficult. Can't say it can't be done. However, you want to make it something that's attainable. And the way you do that is you want to think maybe 2.5 times your salary. That's a good way to look at it. Again, it depends on where you're, but a good goal is to make it 2.5 times your salary. Here he goes. Here's my other video that just popped up. Okay, what does R stand for? Is it relatable? Okay, is it relatable to other people? In other words, if you, let's say, don't succeed, who else is going to lose out on it? In other words, if you're going to, let's say, make a goal to make $100,000 and $20,000 you're going to use it for college funds. Okay, so if your son if you don't get the goal, that means he's not going to go to college because you don't have the $20,000 coming in. So there's two of you that are going to be accounted for. So if you put it like it's related to other people are going to benefit by you getting this goal. Okay, that's awesome. So now you have two people pushing you, whoever it is. Maybe it's your family, maybe it's your son, or whoever it is that's going to benefit by you getting this goal. So you actually, duplicate it. T, time. Is it done in a timely manner? By when are you supposed to hit this? A lot of people say, I want to make $10,000 to $20,000, in the next few years. Well, guess what? That's your brain's like a GPS system. If you try to put in your GPS, yeah, take me to somewhere in Los Angeles, the GPS is not going to, recognize that. You have to make it specific, timely. So by when? This thing keeps popping up, so never excuse that part. Okay, goals. You got to have them. Okay, and if it's SMART goals, I know it makes sense. So the DPM is your definite major purpose. What I recommend you also do is once you get all these things down, is put it on a piece of paper. And here's the way you got to put goals down. What I found is that you don't just put it on a piece of paper and say my goal is to make 100,000 a year, which is 8,333 per month, blah blah blah, and all that. Act as if you already obtained it. So here's the way you write down a goal. It says I have produced $8,333, and today's date would be, let's say, 30 days from today, which is every month you're shooting for. Or you can say, let's say today is what, January the 3rd. So imagine that today is January the 3rd, 2016, which is exactly a year from now. I have produced, in other words, it's happened already. It's done in the past. It's not like I will try, because your brain doesn't think in the future. It thinks in the present. It thinks in what has happened. So you notice that. Okay, let's cross this off. Okay, auto suggestions. This is very important. A lot of times, when you're by yourself in the morning, you get up, You got to talk to yourself. You say, listen, you see this in even in sports. Players use this. They build a what do they call it? They psych themselves up that they can do this thing. So when you psych yourself, I have produced 5 sales today. I've produced 10 sales last week. I can do this thing. And you say that to yourself. Now make sure you can do this when you're driving your car. Make sure your windows are rolled up. Some people think you're crazy, right? But the thing is that your subconscious and your brains hears these things over and over again, and you mentally become stronger when you're communicating with other people. Ideas and questions will come to your mind that will be at the right time, at the right place, producing the result that you want. Okay, auto-suggestion does work. So make sure you use that. Here's another good one. Having the right mindset. Having a leadership attitude. This is where, when you're picking up the phone and you're going to call somebody, the first thing you have to look at is that you're a leader. Okay, you are going to take control of the situation no matter what this other person is going to tell you. I want a refund. You have to take control. Okay, you can't be a carpet, let them walk over you. Okay, you got to take control. How do you do that? And that's not being bossy. Okay, you do it by effective questioning, and you do it by taking control, making your voice soothing to the other person. And I'm going to get into that in the next topic, which is developing a pleasing personality. Okay, but the way you take control, you already know what the objections are going to be. It's basically 3 or 4 objections you hear. In my case, I don't expect it, but if you do hear them, say, like, for example, I don't know what I signed up into. What is this all about? I'm very skeptical. You hear that part a lot. So you say, that's no problem. I'm glad you're skeptical, because if you weren't, everybody would be able to take advantage of you. So it's good to be cautious, but not to be overly cautious. Does that make sense, Mr. Client or Ms. Person, whoever you're talking to, right? So get it. Once you take control by asking them right questions, you build confidence. How do you build confidence? This is one thing. One way to build confidence immediately when you pick up the phone. I anchor myself. For example, when I'm about to pick up the phone, this is what I do to anchor myself, to make myself in a state where I know that whatever I say to the other person, it's going to motivate them to take action to do what I want them to do. And I anchor myself. I take a deep breath just before I make the call. Okay. I look at the person's name. I imagine that they have already bought the MLR. I think of that in their mind. Okay, this is how I'm building my confidence. Okay, and then I just say, bang. I just make a move like this. This is what I do. I anchor my mind this way so that when I'm talking to that person, I'm at a state that I am motivated, where I know no matter what challenge he gives me, I can take control of the situation. So I go, bang. Yours could be something like this. All right, something else here. This thing keeps popping up. Let me get rid of this. Okay, it could be something else. So whatever it is, just anchor yourself so that it could be something like you might just pull your hair a little bit, say, and you just feel that inside of you, that you have that confidence that you could handle the situation. So if the person at the other end saying, geez, I don't know if this is for me or not, you have to take leadership. You have to motivate that other person in a way that they want to do business with you. Okay, not just like, okay, I'll give you a refund, no problem. Okay, wrong approach. Here's the thing I have to look at. The minute somebody wants a refund, somebody wants a cancel, it's my job as an L1 coach to keep them in this system as long as possible without pushing them. Isn't that what your job is? Not just to say, okay, this guy's going to be a waste of time. He's got $2 in his bank account. I'm not in a position to judge that. Who knows what could happen on step 6? Who knows, he could win the lottery by then. He might have bought a ticket you don't even know about, and he's won a $10,000 lottery, whatever. So what I'm getting at is that whatever situation there is, when they first call you, you got to get excited, and you don't have to be loud. I'll get to the enthusiasm, which is down the road here. But I'm getting excited because when you get people coming to you, that's because they hear the confidence in your voice, the soothing of your voice that makes them feel comfortable that this person knows something that I don't know. Very important. Don't be a follower, be a student. Okay? As a leader, we always say you have to be a follower first. Well, I say this, you have to be a student first. And what I mean by that is that have a thirst for knowledge. Every single day, learn one new technique or one new question for 30 days. Well, this is 5, but you know what I mean. This time 6, right? So for 30 days, do this every single day and write down what you learned. It could be that a question that you came up with, or you heard maybe on a recording, or maybe from reading a book. Okay, as you can see behind me, all those books. I got no shortage of knowledge here. So always have that attitude that you're always a student and have a thirst for knowledge every single day, and revise your, and this is how you build content. This is how I get excited when I get on the phone with somebody that the night before. I'll spend the night before maybe 10-15 minutes watching Jim Rohn or somebody like that. And this is when you become a student rather than a follower, okay? Because people will tell you to do certain things, and they're trying to boss you around, right? They say, "Hey, do this and do that. I want to open up my steps to the next level." They'll say, "I'll open these steps for you." You have to take them in a position where you know what's best for them. Okay. Here's another key one: developing your mastermind. And developing your mastermind doesn't necessarily mean you're always going to be locked onto your coach or your superiors in this thing, okay? Or being with Ryan, your manager. But the mastermind could mean from somebody that you look up to, um, even in the world out there that don't even know you. Here's how you develop a mastermind: by you think like them. I'll give you an example. If I'm in a tough situation and I go, geez, I wonder what Tony Robbins would do in this situation. I think like that because your brain had, now, even though you may not know who Tony Robbins is, but I think most of you do, but you think like that. What would they do in a situation like that if they were hit with somebody saying to them, I don't have enough money to buy this thing? What would they say? So developing a mastermind, you think in the level of somebody that you want to be like. You don't have to be mimicking them, but you want to be like them, obviously, okay? So developing a mastermind is very important. Develop a pleasing personality. Oh, this is very important. Developing a pleasing personality, I think here is the most important of all these steps I'm going through with you, okay? Because when you have somebody that even tries to argue with you and they just can't, that is what you call a level of really of high intelligence, because they can't argue. And one of the ways to do it is having a PMA, a positive mental. Just today, I'll give you an example. This lady named Merla just called me. She goes, "Oh, I'm very skeptical about this. I want my refund. I want my money." I said, Merla, I'm glad you feel this way. And there was silence. She goes, "Why?" I said, "That's because you obviously are very cautious in what you're getting into. You've probably been scammed with other companies. Is that right?" He goes, "You're right." I got her to say yes. I made an agreement. Okay. But I was positive about what we have going for us. I say, "I know how you feel. I felt the same way when I came in. I wasn't saying, okay, here's my checkbook, write the amount that you want and let me sign on it," right? I wasn't like that. But you got to get them, whenever they are in a hostile situation, get them to smile, get them to laugh at something, and make them laugh at you. That's the best way. And I said, you know what? When I came in, I didn't know how to do this. When I talk to people, I said this thing backward. I say, "Hey, listen, my name is," and I said, "Mob. Would you like to get into Ashraf Ali's business?" I said it backwards. Okay, literally, because I was so confused. But you know what? They laugh. They laugh at me, and then they got them. So the first thing I try to do when they first made that contact, in the first 10 to 15 seconds, is I get them to smile or laugh at something. If I can get them to do that, and I get them to neutral now, you see. And when I do that, this is what a pleasing personality is that if you smile on the phone, they know you're an easy person to talk to. They know you're successful. They've heard Matt Lloyd say to them, these are all six-figure and some seven-figure earners. They got to understand that you're one of those people, but they got to understand that you're easy to talk to. Because some people have a preconception idea of that all rich people are snooty, right, and all that. I mean, they're so snooty that if it rained, they would drown, right, if their nose is up so high. But I want to make them understand that I'm approachable, I'm equal to them, and I'll make them understand that, hey, this is a fun business, okay? So this is how you get a pleasing personality, is you don't let them argue with you. And even if they're right and you're wrong, they're wrong, even if you're right and they're wrong, okay, and they're arguing with you, don't put up an argument. You say, hey, no problem. That's the way you feel. That's okay. Hey, I'm sure you have a good reason for that, but let's change the subject. That's one way to get off the argument. Change the subject. Don't argue with them. Talk about something else that you have more knowledge of. Talk about maybe the weather or something. Determination. This is very powerful. Determination means that the minute you get off the phone with somebody and it didn't go the way it should have went, stand up, shake it off, okay, and then do that power move I just talked about. Go bang, something like that would make your brain shift to the state that you want to be in. you have that determination effect that you can go right back to the phone and talk to somebody else or send them an email, whatever you got to do. Because remember, when you're engaging with somebody, you don't have time to be negative. You don't have time to have problems coming down on you. Determination will overcome that. And by having a determined attitude, as you go do what? Focus on the goal. Focus back here. Let's go back to your SMART goal right here. There you go. Focus on so the minute you're in a tough situation, you need determination. Focus on this. What are you supposed to get per month? How many sales you're supposed to get this week? Focus on that immediately the minute somebody gives you a rough time. That's what could call determination. Where were we? Here we go. Okay. All right. Accurate thinking. This is very powerful. So somebody says to you, this is a scam. Oh boy. I say, oh man, first I laugh at it. I say, you know what? I'm so glad you told me that. Boy, I got to tell this to John Chow. I wonder what he's going to think. John Chow is pulling in $1 million a year in this thing, and I don't think this is a scam for him. But let me ask you a question. A scam is something, one of the definitions of a scam is you put your money into something and it's gone. You can't get it back. Now, didn't you hear Matt Lloyd say in the video that he'll refund your money if you're not satisfied, whatever it is, right? So how could this be a scam? Can you give me a definition of a scam? You catch them in the track, they're going to go, oh, well, yeah, you're right. I say, well, this is what you call accurate thinking. How do they get this word scam? Okay. Well, if this was a scam, why would you opt in, put in your information, put your application in, pull out your $49, pull out your credit card, and how could they do that? It's just mind-boggling. Now, if they didn't pay any money and then they say it's a scam, I understand. But they've already put out $49 to do this. So I just baffled when they say something like that. Accurate thinking. How did they come up with that idea? Did somebody else's card that they use or something like that? Anyway, imagination. This is where you got to come up with maybe thinking on your feet, right? Imagination. Here is where you can use an imagination. So let me ask you a question. If you think this is a scam, okay, and let's say you're right, okay, and I'm wrong, okay, how is it that we're in business for 5-6 years? Somebody would have put it out of business. The FTC would have got a hold of us and boom, we're out of business, right? If this really was a scam. So have you ever thought of that? Oh no, never thought. So imagination, using different ideas from different industry to sell your product. Just don't, I know we have 21 steps. You can go through those. And again, this thing keeps popping up. It keeps me focused at least. All right. So imagination, use different ideas from different industry. That will help. Like for example, just now, well, it's now the New Year's coming up, but you notice that on one of the sessions we had in the meetings, I talked about using tax deductions. Okay, having a tax deduct. This is a tax deductible item. Well, before the new year comes in, let's use this as a tax deduction. Instead of paying $2,000, Uncle Sam or your government's going to pay a percentage of that because it's a tax deductible item. Why not do it now? Because you'll get it in January, within 30 days, whatever. That's using your imagination. Okay, this is one I like. Mental toughness comes back from most of you know this from Vince Lombardi back in the days 30-40 years ago when he was coaching the Green Bay Packers, and he talked about mental toughness. Mental toughness comes from patience. Okay, because a lot of times there's some days that you just every single day, every single hour, you're dialing and dialing and dialing, and no results are coming in. Mental toughness. That's where you have to think that every time you're engaging with a client and it's not coming out to where it should be, but you're preparing yourself for success, is having some patience. Okay? Just get back into the game. Use some of the techniques we talked about, determination. Concentration is very important. Concentration, having your goals in front of you. Are you focused on that? Are you making the calls that you said you would make? 100 calls a day, 10 calls a day. How many people are you going to contact, right? Cooperation, very powerful. And cooperation it goes back to a little bit about the PMA, the pleasing personality, okay? And cooperation means that if somebody has limitations on what they can do when they want to get in, think of a solution. Here's a technique that I found that really is paying off. So let's say we don't want to do 4 pays, right? Okay, here's a cooperative. This person wants to get in, and he really wants to get in. The only way I take a 4 pay is I know within the next week they will come up with the money to buy it. So they say, you know what, I'm going to get my paycheck in 2 weeks, or I'm going to get my paycheck in 10 days, whatever it is. And they're absolutely, absolutely, absolutely sure that themselves they're going to do it. And they can't come up with, under $1,000. That's the only time that's cooperating with them. Rather than waiting for them and saying, okay, yeah, when you get your check, let's do it. Who knows where they could be in 2 weeks from now? Remember, this is an impulse product. This is an emotional product you're selling. This is where you're talking about their dreams. They're talking about their problems in their life. And you're bringing that up to the surface. And then you're saying, what do you think you should do? See, I should get this. Yeah, I just can't come up with 2,000. Well, let's see, And you tried other techniques, but this is one way is to think like them. In other words, cooperate by being in their shoes for a minute. What can they actually dig out? I mean, this is where the biggest, your mental toughness comes in is because remember, you're helping the other party to come up with the money. It's not your commission. Don't worry about your commission. You're helping the other party. Because if they can make their livelihood come alive with this business and, make the handsome commissions they want to make, then your job is done, Tolerance. This is where you get sometimes you have a no-show on a strategy session. Oh, how does that feel? You have a strategy session, you're all lined up, 10 o'clock, ready to go get it. He's not there, right? How do you feel? Tolerance. You got to put up with that, right? So this is where you have to think that what you should have done before to make this thing happen. Maybe the confirmation, maybe the last time you spoke to him, you didn't really tell them, hey, listen, you got to be here. I'm going to take some time out. Maybe you didn't solidify it. It happens to me all the time. Sometimes I forget to tighten up the appointment before we hang up the phone. And that's where you learn from that. It's all about tolerance. If you can put up with all of the excuses you're going to hear, oh, you know what, my cat got sick or something, or whatever it was, the snow came down and I couldn't do that. That's okay. That's why you want to have a backup plan. Okay? So tolerance, very important. Doing more than paid for. This is very powerful. When in sales, there's nobody really. It's not like a punch clock, right? You go and do your 9 to 5, and you punch in and punch out. Doing more than you're paid for means that you give them a little extra bit of information to help them with this business. Maybe you send them a link about something like a motivational on YouTube you saw that really helped you. Give them some more information that will help them. Doing the extra mile. That will pay off handsomely because even though you're not getting rewarded for that, right? It'll come back to you one day. Very powerful. Going the extra miles. Self-control is very important because people don't. What happens? You go to let's say a retail store, and then so you say, hey, listen, I'm looking for this. Oh, that's not my department. That's not my job. You'll have to go to the other end. They don't even want to take the time to look for the product you're looking for, right? They have no self-control, but this takes self-control because you're not getting paid for this, but you're doing this out of the goodness because you know that there's a benefit at the end. So going the extra mile, that is what it's all about. Now this is, I left this kind of empty here. It says people don't care how much you know, they care how much you care about them, right? So when you're talking to them, you want to relate to them. When I talk to people, I relate to them as if I'm talking to them like my brother. I'm talking to them like my sister. That's how I want to talk to them at that level. Because when I break down and I become very transparent with them, and I even tell them, listen, I'm talking to you like my brother. This thing works. And if you don't believe me, that's okay. But I'm just telling you from my heart to your heart. If that message comes across and you believe what I'm saying, then you're going to get in. If you don't, it's not a problem, but I'm still your friend. So they don't care of how much you know. They only care about them, helping them, what's in it for them. They're very powerful. Enthusiasm, this is the exciting part. Enthusiasm comes, first of all, you want to stay healthy. You want to stay fit. Every morning or in the evening, whatever time you allocate, 20 minutes a day, half hour a day, to physically getting, because you remember your brain is connected to your body, right? So if this part is not right, it's going to affect this part, right? So if you take two equal people that are knowledgeable, okay, that have 20 years experience in sales, let's say, and they have both done very effectively, but one is very healthy and the other doesn't take care of themselves, right? And what's going to happen? The person is going to have that edge. They're going to get less tired, and that affects your enthusiasm. When you're on the phone at 6 o'clock in the evening, you're dialing your phone to somebody, and you don't physically feel like you want to do it. Your body's pulling you down, but your brain says, I need to make calls. You got to stay healthy. That's what creates enthusiasm. Okay, and there's another one way to get enthusiasm, using your voice inflection. You'll notice that when I talk sometimes, it's not like in a monotone voice. I slow down, I speak up. It's like up and down, it's like a seismic graph, right? So you want to emphasize on some keywords as you're talking to people. So, how does that make you feel if you get up every single morning, Mr. Customer, at 6 o'clock? And then you got to come home at what time did you say? At 6 again. So you don't get to see sunlight, right? And then you got to face your child and they forget who you are because they're always with their babysitter. That's not a good feeling. Man, you notice the voice inflection? If you talk like that to people, you feel their problem. You feel their problem. That's a good way to say it. Yeah. If you feel their problem, what's going to happen is they're going to feel it and they're going to get engaged with you. They're going to say, geez, okay, where's the form? Where do I sign? Right? Using voice and speed. So enthusiasm comes when you talk very fast, but you also want to slow down at times. Okay. Match the speed of your clients also to build some rapport, but then go back to like how you are. You don't want to mimic them. Okay. You can still build rapport by helping them. Okay. Create urgency. Enthusiasm creates urgency. I had one person just the other day, and his name was Eddie Lim. Okay, and I said, listen, man, this is so exciting. I said, you know what? When you get your dreams fulfilled, I said, when? You're going to see that you should have started this 2 years ago. 2 years ago, because, and if you had seen that, you probably would have been right now already in the beaches of the world. You can see the beaches around us here. So I noticed create some effects for you guys. So I created some urgency. Boom. He called me on New Year's Day. We were supposed to have a strategy session on Friday, which was the second, but he calls me up the day before. He goes, hey, listen, I'm here. What you showed me there, man, I don't want to waste another day. And 5 days later, he's a platinum. Think about it. Okay, discipline. Comes down to doing what's necessary. Sometimes you wake up in the morning, you just say, oh man, you don't have Mr. Ryan telling you get in your office and get on the phone, but you do it anyway. That's called discipline. Oh, if I could just sleep another half hour, how that would be nice. I'm teaching people to live their dream, but you still do it because our job is to help other people get what they want. That's called discipline. Doing the necessary things you need to do, watch this, whether you like it or not. That's what you call discipline. That's what develops, oh, I forgot to put it here. Look at this. That's what develops, I'm going to get this right. Character. I don't know if there's an A before the R, but you get the point what I'm trying to say. Character. Character is you do the right thing whether somebody's looking at you or not. You just do it. Character is telling the truth, right? Character is being able to lead people in their best interest, taking them what's in their best interest. Okay, so that's all for mindset today, guys. Hope this helps. I'll talk to you again, and happy selling.